From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office, and now behind the mic at KXEX, this is the Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable.
Free at last! Free at last! Thanks Almighty! We are free.
You say you want a revolution.
Yes. That's what happens when you come in early on your promo. You try to join in and cover, but I blew it. Hey, well, I don't know how we're gonna last, folks, but welcome to Autry No Retreat. Honored and humbled to have you with us today. And it's Wednesday, and most Wednesdays we get the blessing of having Mr. Larry Powell with us.
Nice to be here, Alan.
And some Wednesdays we get the extra help and a blessing with Mr. Guillermo Moreno. You wanted Mo Reno? Well, you got him again here today.
Hey,
Welcome.
Someone's got to keep you guys in line.
I just love saying. You have some words you just love to say. Guillermo's one of them. I like to say the word.
It's a beautiful word.
The other one I like to say is salsa. I'm like to find sign. Can I have some salsa? Certain words you like to say.
Guac.
No, that's
guac.
Guac.
Yeah.
Guac. Well, folks, I don't know. I keep getting emails. We're trying to figure out what happened yesterday. Our Facebook post was taken down somehow. We don't know if it was a glitch. I don't think it was a glitch. It's a simple process. You shoot the show. It goes on, goes up on the page, and there it is. And it was show number 250. I was looking forward to that. Quarter of a mil.
Wow.
I mean, we were looking for that. It's 250K. It'd be what, quarter of a mil?
Yeah.
But it's not. It shows, not money. But it didn't make it, which leaves us with the conclusion, Guillermo.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
I didn't know.
It was not posted. Huh. I think it might have something to do with our comments about Mr. Zelensky, which we're going to hit it again. I got to say, because we said absolutely nothing against Volodymyr Zelensky, just a caution about canonizing and proclaiming sainthood to anyone in the world. You got to be very cautious. That was the spirit of the discussion. We didn't once say that Putin was justified in invading Ukraine. In fact, we prefaced it many times so that Facebook, you wouldn't make the mistake of thinking we were anti-Zelensky. Maybe it was the joke.
You know what I think?
It was the joke. Remember the joke? Remember my joke?
Yeah.
It's hard to trust a guy whose last name sounds like a sneeze. Now listen, Zelensky's a comedian.
He is.
He would have if Zelensky wouldn't get offended at that, why should Facebook?
Well, if you're in his country, you get offended.
I wouldn't. He's a comedian. I bet he's in there cracking jokes, loosening the mood. What are you going to do?
That's true.
It's true humor on the battlefield. You hear about people talking about World War II, these soldiers, the stuff they would talk about.
Yeah, that's true.
In the midst of horrific battle. I mean, what are you going to do? But anyway,
I figured out what we're going to do.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So to make sure the program,
because you're the boss here, man.
Well, no, we're a team.
But
here's what we do.
No more Zelensky jokes.
No. Oh yeah, go. Have at it.
I admire and respect the guy. I really do. I do.
Oh, I thought there was a joke like a
no. There's not. Well, the man that would literally die for his beliefs, whether you subscribe to those beliefs or not, you have to admire it. I'm going to get in trouble here, but
you got to know that Reagan had probably 25 Soviet Union jokes. I don't know if you all remember that.
No.
Let me read one to you. It says, a worker standing in the liquor line says, I've had enough. Save my place. I'm going to go shoot Gorbachev. 2 hours later, returns to claim his place in line. His friend asks, did you get him? He said, no, the line there was longer than here. So that's a Reagan joke. President Reagan.
See, we're laughing now, but when Lindsey Graham said, I think someone should have said,
No, I know.
These Hawks are, what are they on, man?
Hey, whoa.
They're
The
like
Hawks
that,
are nice. The Hawks sometimes do.
Okay.
I'm a little hawkish.
Okay. See, terms change over time.
Yeah.
Words change.
Very true. Very true.
If you talk about, the gay 90s or the gay 20s, you would talk about just happens, not a social term.
Yeah.
It was just having fun. It has a whole different connotation. Back in the day, if you said somebody, boy, that's a sick move, it would mean that's bad.
Yeah.
Now it's good.
Yeah.
Boy, that's sick. That means that's good.
Yep.
It means bad. So, the term hawk is taken on a different term because these folks, I wouldn't even put them in the Barry Goldwater category. One of the biggest hawks to ever fly, and the Hawks guys was old BG. But some of these guys, like Lindsey, my goodness, what's your talk? Being a hawk, party about a hawk. What do you say about these guys that say, we should have a no-fly zone, go in there, don't worry about that he has 6,000 nukes, dare him to use them. If you want to use those nukes, go in there and say, come on, give me your best shot. That's in essence what he's saying.
Yeah. Well, you got to be smart hawk. You got to you're high
as opposed to a smart aleck.
Yeah. you're high above. You got to survey. You got to figure out what's really going on. And to be a true hawk and to not do an Iraq all over again, you got to take stock of what's going on. You got to have all the facts. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to know both sides, and you have to talk, and you have to make sure that is the last resort. And I mean, it's going to affect, and it's already affecting women and children, but it really has to. I think to myself, at what point in time would I be okay with Joe Biden, and I would support Joe Biden going in there and doing something? I would say Putin would have to want to take over Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, like all at once. And then to me, I'd say, all right, buddy, like you could. Hey, you need to pump the brakes and then start doing a no-fly zone. But right now, I just feel like we're too early. We can still, I think, get Putin and Zelensky to somehow come to some sort of agreement. You showed me a map after the program. You went full NFL, whiteboard on me, and I think Putin's going to get what he wants. Zelensky's going to still have a country. We can facilitate that
if we don't blow up the world first.
Or that's very true.
So, because when you talk about last resort in this context, you're talking about the last resort for all mankind. Period. People, I think, have lost sight of that. After the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the world started seeing the images of that destruction. They'd never seen anything like it. It was like a Freddy Krueger movie. It was horrible. It was the worst horror film you could imagine. And this whole idea of, as countries started developing the nuclear weapons, Russia, China, you got 9 of them now. This whole concept of mutual assured destruction, people really understood. Politicians understood. The people understood. I grew up, and Larry, you grew up with the bomb shelters at school, the drills. Here comes nuclear war. When Khrushchev banged the podium with his shoe and said, "We will bury you," the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was right there in the forefront of the thinking, the political strategy. I think so much time, Larry, we talked about this out before the show. My fear is we as a society, and I'm speaking globally, have really been desensitized and gotten into this fantasy world that we could somehow survive this limited exchange, even a limited exchange of nuclear weapons, and the whole notion of that would never happen. Even if you told somebody, there's going to be 11 terrorists learn how to fly airplanes over in Saudi Arabia. They're going to come over. Right. They're going to come over here and learn how to fly airplanes, rather. And they're going to hijack some planes, and they're going to fly them into the Twin Towers. God, that's never going to happen. What are the odds of that happening?
Yeah.
1 in a million, or probably 10 million, but it happened. I'm fearful with the rhetoric that comes out of Lindsey Graham and Mitt Romney and all the Democrats is beyond Hawk in the world of. Again, I just asked a question. Lindsey Graham looked right into the screen the other day and Hannity said, if you that don't back me up and don't subscribe to my policy of getting tough on on Russia and going in there and attacking them and head on, what is wrong with you? And my quick retort was, what the hell is wrong with you? You can't proceed in a post-Hiroshima world as you did prior. And then I'll shut up and I'll hear your response because people don't understand this. And maybe this is the wake-up call the world needed. And I hate to say this, I'm going to get your response because you know what? I'm slowly but inexorably getting to the point because I see these people that should know better, cautioning everybody, listen, we have to give diplomacy a chance here, even with this monster over there, Putin. Is it going to take one of them going off and just hope it doesn't escalate to the destruction of the world? Is a battlefield nuke going to have to go off and completely destroy a city like Kiev? Is it going before people go, my God, I didn't know we had that capability?
At the end of the day, Alan, I don't think Putin's going to use it. I've said this. I think that in the second week, nobody wants to push the button. No, Putin doesn't want to push the button because he knows at that point that's the point of no return. We don't want to get involved. And nobody wants to do anything while at the same time nobody cares to really try and solve the situation. I don't know what's going to bring how long are we going to be doing this for? A month, 2 months? Well, we're past a month already.
Yep.
3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I keep thinking to myself, okay, well, what's going to bring upon the end? The end is going to be brought by either China coming in and making a peace agreement or us coming in and doing something like that. And I don't see us rushing over there. No pun intended. Get it? Russian. Rushing over there to do this. So I don't think we're going to see World War III. However, I also sat in this chair way before this happened and said, nah, Putin's never going to go into
I didn't think he would invade either.
He's just going to,
a little incursion, minor incursion.
Yeah, minor incursion. I don't know, maybe I may be totally not credible on this because I had this wrong to begin with.
Well, I don't think the nuke will come into play, and I pray it doesn't, obviously. But you got to understand that the roots of this war, in a lot of ways, are the Russian church. The orthodoxy from the Russian church versus the orthodoxy from Kiev, because they've had a historical battle over religion for many, many years. And so if you go to, Kirill, who is the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, is the puppet of Putin. So Putin, while not being religious in a lot of ways, has backed the Russian Orthodox side of things because the West, which Kiev represents, the West allows homosexuality and all of the things that are quote unquote in orthodoxy not acceptable. And so it is literally a religious war, and the West doesn't understand that.
I had this conversation with Dennis McCourt, who does Kingdom Talk on Saturdays, and he was telling me, Guillermo, no, this is all religious. This is all religious. Yep. And I said, Dennis, you think that's the primary reason? And he said, Guillermo, yes, I do. So now you're the second person that's telling me about the religious undertones.
There's a great article out of the University of Oregon, J. Eugene Clay, Why Church Conflict in Ukraine Reflects Historic Russian-Ukrainian Tensions. So those tensions have existed for hundreds of years because those two orthodoxies actually competed with each other. And now you have a Jewish Russian-Ukrainian leader in Zelensky who basically is adopting the West, which is seen as evil in the Russian Orthodox Church. So you've got all of this stuff going on. So there's a lot more religious connotation than you would understand. And once you understand that, you see why he keeps going a little further, Putin, because it is a religious battle from his perspective.
Religiously, how does the map square out? Does he?
Anybody who supports the Russian Orthodoxy is literally conservative religion. So limited on a lot of different things. So the gay movement, all of those kinds of things. Okay. The other side,
gender neutrality, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
They say the West is being totally decadent.
Absolutely. And if that is the reason you went in, it's not an easy solve by going in and talking about this doesn't make sense, because to all of us, it doesn't make sense. But then we see them as evil. Well, they see us as evil, and they see us as literally the decay of the world.
You're absolutely right. And so does China.
I was going to say, I'm not sure I would disagree with that.
Yeah.
You know, and you know how much I love this country, but
no, absolutely. Well, it's made it hard. It really has.
That is the aspect of freedom.
And let me tell you the value for us and it is a cost of freedom. One of the things that we as Christians, and I'm an evangelical Christian at People's Church and stuff, we take the position that we need to love people into the kingdom and worry about eternal positions much more than what's going on now. Obviously, we're still interested in now, but I want you to know my Lord and Savior and who I believe in, because I think then that fundamentally, if you follow the real precepts of Christianity, you don't have war. You don't have all of the other things. You accept people. You don't accept their behavior, but you accept people. And there's a whole lot of different things going on. That's what's happening here.
Well, the unthinkable never happens until it happens. And let's extrapolate that thought for just real quickly, and we'll go to break. You had Harry Truman faced with a very difficult dilemma. Japan was not going to give up. They worshiped the emperor. That was their religion. They were willing to die for because of kamikazes, and what was left to make them give up was to invade the mainland of Japan, take that over. By estimation, they were talking a couple of 100,000, if not more, American lives would be lost doing that. Harry Truman, a devout Christian, made a decision. He said, well, we'll never use nuclear weapons. You know why I believe it's a possibility is because we have already. That tests were done with those nuclear weapons before it was dropped. They knew the devastation. They knew the horrific energy that was going to be unleashed and the consequences. They had all the metrics out. And he had to make a decision based on, I believe, what's better for the world. America dominating the world or Japan dominating the world. And 250,000 American lives, or 100,000 Japanese lives, include women and children. And he not only dropped it on Hiroshima, he dropped it on Nagasaki. Yeah. So, that came into play, Larry, this thing of, and if Putin is marching to that drummer, and from what I'm gathering, he has had this rejuvenation of his faith with this Mr. Kirill. Yeah. And that's a whole different, a whole different strategy you have to look at. That's why when you have Lindsey Graham, you have these people going bang, he's Satan, put him in the corner. You put somebody like that in the corner and say that, let me put it this way. If rather than depart in defeat, he will use a battlefield nuke. I have absolutely no doubt this man is not going to cut and run from the Ukraine without victory.
Yeah, agreed.
So if he can't do it conventionally, he's going to use that.
So this goes back to the fundamental question I think everybody has on their minds. I talked about this on Friday when I was guest hosting your show. Should America be the world's policeman? And I had a conversation with retired Marine Corps Colonel John Somerville, who's in Israel right now. By the way, he's going to be joining me live from Israel on Friday. He said, Guillermo, when I hear this, I love to hear it because we love the police. We support law enforcement. When we say America shouldn't be the policeman of the world, it really saddens his heart. And you really got me on this because it's so true. Like a police officer, sometimes you have to make those quick decisions to save other people's lives. So when you're talking about Truman, and I know he's a Christian, he had to use it. At the same time, as the world's policeman, we sometimes have to make some pretty tough decisions. But like a police officer, you got to really, and we've had a couple of bad examples in the media, but as a police officer, we really got to take account into the situation, and we have to weigh what's really going on and hopefully make the right decision. So I think we should be the world's policeman.
See, I disagree completely. Excuse me. Because it's like asking the Fresno Police Department to be the policeman of the nation. You go into New York, you can go any place. It's your responsibility, Fresno Police Department, to be the policeman of the United States, to be the policeman of the world. First of all, you got to figure out who the good guys are from the bad guys. And these are very complex decisions that have to be made. When you go into parts of Africa, the Middle East, you go over to Europe, you go over to even in Western Europe, not to mention Eastern Europe. Who are the bad guys? Who are the good guys? And again, you get back to Zelensky. We brought him up the media to sainthood. This is a country that was recognized as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And now, I'm not saying they deserve to be invaded by any means, but we coming in with limited resources, getting involved in everybody else's conflicts, saying that we know better. We're going to go over here. We're going to analyze the situation. We're going to identify the good guys and the bad guys. We're going to take a side, bring our enormous power to bear on our good guys that we're supporting, and it's going to come out all right. I think that is a recipe for absolute, global disaster. I think in this situation, Ukraine is not a NATO country. We should help them, I believe, absolutely. But to say that if you're invaded, we're gonna do everything that we're obligated to come in there as the world's policeman and stand by you no matter what. And I think that becomes very, very dangerous. For one thing, it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think, Larry?
Well,
you got to break this tie. But I'm not saying we got to go in there and fight the fight for them. I'm saying as the world's policeman, hey, we're showing up to a gunfight.
Well, I think there are different levels
do we
of
have?
police.
Who deemed us morally superior to be the world's policeman? To come in and say, we, at the United States of America, we are so much morally superior to anyone that we're going to come in there and we're going to adjudicate right from wrong, and we're going to come and decide who wins, who loses, and we are the world's policemen. Respect us. We got the badge, we got the guns, and this is the same country, that fought in World War II against a really bad enemy, but it's also the same country that got into Vietnam and let 55,000 people die for nothing, carpet bombing villages, killing with napalm, a worse death you could imagine, little children, because you didn't have the political will to get out. And you look at that, and you look at what they're talking about Putin. War crimes, Bush war crimes, innocent life, women and children being killed. You look at the numbers that come out of Vietnam, how many innocent women and children were killed by these indiscriminate bombings and napalm. Horrible. Well, should LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, who was canonized for his social work, the 64 Voters' Rights Act, all of the civil rights legislation exalted by the left, is the same president that dropped that napalm in those bombs and killed all of those kids. Should he then be tried posthumously as a war criminal?
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Well, it is. That's why I'm saying you don't go. We're the world's policemen.
Well, no. But listen. But here's the thing:
we're superior. Look at our history. Well, we're not. Well, I don't know.
But just like a lot of individuals, they fall into something that they might not necessarily have always wanted. Who made us the world's policeman? Well, I think we did, but it's not by something that we want to do. I mean, we have so many problems here in America. We got to take care of. Charity starts at home. However, we see the need around the world. And my big thing is, if we're not the world's policeman, trust me, someone's going to step in.
Then why aren't we over there in Africa going after the warlords who have very, compared to Russia, or these countries, these aggressive countries, China, or even the smaller countries, they're out there with a ragtag armies, if you want to call it that, with a reign of terror over people, taking all of the foreign aid that comes over there. They use it for themselves while their people starve. Why aren't we the world's policemen and go over there and take those warlords out? How do you pick and choose?
I agree with. I think we should.
Why?
But I don't want to pull Lindsey Graham and say I think we should.
If we're the world's policemen,
but we should.
So if you're the world's policeman, you'll pick which neighborhoods you want to protect. Okay, I'm going to protect this neighborhood because we know them more. I know
they're not fighting with each other.
They're close to our neighbors. But over here, I don't know that neighborhood real well, and they can kind of fend for themselves. That's why I said you don't have the capability to be the world's, and I think it's an interesting topic of conversation. How far do we extend? Does our responsibility to the world to protect innocent people from oppression, real bad oppression. I think there is a role for the United States of America, but as tough as it is to accept, we cannot be the world's policeman. I don't think, and all due respect to the general and to you, it's a great thought that if we got our moral house in order, we really got ourselves feeling good and really disciplined ourselves morally, so we at least have that to stand on, some credibility to be able to walk in and tell, here this country, okay, cops here, we're taking over. You guys stop fighting. Okay, you guys get along. If not, we're going to go take your weapons away.
Let me give you a little different take on this whole thing.
Please do.
Larry, you got to settle this tie. You got to settle this.
I admire. Let's come in there and take it. But no, don't get me wrong. The thought that we could be that country, they could evolve into that country of that strong moral turpitude, that strength, and we were just almost flawless in that regard. That would be nice. Not realistic, not human nature. But I like the thought because, as you said, if we're not that influenced, somebody's going to fill that void. Mm-hmm. And you sure don't want to be China and Russia. So I agree with you on that point. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, if you go back historically, we knew what we believed and why we believed it in America. And from that point of view and a foreign policy that supported those beliefs, we had thus from that moral authority to go and be the policeman of the world. What's happened is we've lost some of our moral authority because we've lost what we believe and why we believe it, or we haven't been able to define it in a way that it is even as understandable within America. And so when you don't have a conclusive, and we're so split, when you don't have a conclusive philosophy as Americans now, and you have multiple philosophies and two main ones, the left and the right, and way out on the extremes of both, then you end up with not feeling you can go in because not all of your people are supporting. In the old days, that dropping the bomb on Hiroshima was a horrible thing to do, but it had consensus. Major consensus. And it did stop a lot of loss of life, both from us and from the Japanese people. So would you have wanted to avoid that? Of course you would. But you got to also keep in mind that there are different versions of freedom. And part of our moral authority, and from me, God-given, because nations are going to be judged on what they do. The Bible tells us that. From my position as a pastor, I think we have a moral authority to look where there is obvious evil, and we've made mistakes in the past, but don't let those stop you from, when you see a mistake, of doing whatever you can in incremental steps to stop it, not in the go in and blow up step, but you've got to do.
But just think about it realistically. Step back and look at it.
Before you go there, let me go one more thing here.
No, you do.
And the reason is, when you're looking at Ukraine and Russia, I want to go back to the churches. You got to remember that it was originally the Ukrainian Orthodox Church under the Patriarchate of Moscow. They became the Orthodox Church of Ukraine out of Constantinople. Okay, so when you start looking at those subtle changes of the church in Ukraine wanted to be their own authority, not under the authority of another country's religion. And so they, instead of being the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, they became the Orthodox Church of Ukraine under the Constantinople connection instead of the Russian connection. See, all of that. So you've got a lot of Middle East taking place in here and the West influence. And you got to remember that the frame of reference that Putin comes at this with is an Eastern philosophy. He is not a Western thinker. Right. He is an Eastern
and that's
thinker.
Why he has this close bond with Xi Jinping.
Yeah, and the Russian Orthodox Church is able to do that.
But to be the world's, just think how things have changed. We used to go into a country that was warring, and when we in America were subscribing to the melting pot theory, we said, listen, you can get along. We're proving it. You have different faiths, different races, all these things, different creeds, and we're all working together because it's a melting pot, because e pluribus unum, out of many one. We have common values, freedom, liberty, justice for all, no matter what your station is in life, no matter what you look like or how rich or poor you are. That was who we are. Now we go over and you tell the country, okay, let me tell you the American way. You want to tribalize first. First, you want to come in there and make sure you pick sides. There's oppressors and those that are oppressed. There's only two groups. Figure out who the oppressors are. May we suggest it be people of color are the oppressed. That's how we do it in America. All white people are bad. So I know that we got white people delegation. That's the American way. life in the American way. So we suggest to start off, forget about that unity stuff, tribalize versus. That's where you begin to find all the answers and coming together. That's the message of this country now. It's a 50-50 country. Which 50% is the policeman? The 50% that believe that objectivity is racist, that you come out, you're part of a group and a pressure. Which 50% of America gets to be the world policeman? The 50% that doesn't, that has some semblance of what made America great in it? It's so complex now, and our reputation has been so tarnished around the world because all of this nonsense we've let invade our national thought about math is racist. That
is. I did horrible in math, and that's because I'm Latino. So those numbers weren't kind to me.
Well, it wasn't good American white people and American Indians either. It wasn't through that racist system. Let's take a break because you're eager to spew, and I'm going to let you. When we come back,
I'm ready to bust the door down.
I'm not even going to come back. I'm going to let you jump in there and do it. We're going to go to break here, Jose. This is Alan Autry. No retreat. When we come back, we're talking about World War III. Everybody's talking about World War III, including me. But in reality, has World War III already begun? I think so. When we come back, I'm going to tell you why. After Guillermo fills your ear and mind and heart with wisdom. This is Alan Autry, No Retreat with Larry Powell and Guillermo Marino. We'll be right back. Imagine Professor Inspector Clouseau singing that song. I fought the love in the love one. I fought the love in the love one.
Oh, Facebook just went out again. No.
Did it? No.
Did you get my text?
Using the French accent.
That's what I'm talking about, right? Yeah.
You know I'm French, Autry. Did you know that? That's real. I'm French. I look at Scottish, American Indian, Cherokee Choctaw.
Heinz 57.
What's that? Heinz 57.
Yeah, don't you know?
A little bit of everything.
Heinz 57. Variety of everything. Je parle français bien étudié français pour 7 ans.
You stepped in what?
I studied French for 7 years. I really used it a lot in Fresno.
Can you speak French? If there was one language I'd like to learn, it would be French.
Yeah.
Because you can say French and you can just call somebody vile names, horrible things, and it sounds like you're just praising them. It's like in the South when they say "bless your heart,"
bless your
you know what that's
little pea-picking heart.
Yeah, they're actually saying something. Well, bless your heart. You know what I'm thinking? Laying out in Alabama, you know of what I speak. Bless your heart.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, boy,
I like it. We found something we disagree on. I think as we talk more, we'll probably find a lot more, but this is good.
No, you're always going to find that no, we line up on so many things. And I line up on the fantasy of being the world's policeman. If we can evolve into that, if we, the framers warned us about getting involved.
They did, yeah, they did.
Of being that policeman, because they knew the policeman. See, Thomas Sowell talks about the unrestricted vision. What you got?
Let me take this one.
Oh, go. The unrestricted vision and the restricted vision of the unconstrained vision is just you leave it up to man's impulses are all good. If you just create the right institutions and get the right people in there, you can have like utopia on earth here. And Thomas Sowell says, no, this man is innately not perfect.
Right.
They have very deep flaws, people do. And if you don't put checks and balances on those flaws.
It's actually biblical.
Yeah, that those flaws will take over and the powerful will rule over the powerless.
The pull of man's own evil thoughts will always lead to destruction.
And if you look at the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, it's all about checking ambition. It's prevented to prevent an actual king coming to pass, the separation of powers. Equal powers, the judiciary branch, the legislative, the executive branch.
Yep.
All of these rights given by God, not man, so they're not given by man, so they can't be taken away by man.
Right.
So all these things to protect the individual from the likelihood, and some people say the surety, that when you give power, unrestricted power to people, they're going to abuse it. And that's why the framers said, look, you may grow into the biggest superpower ever, but you're going to abuse that no matter who you are. Even the United States.
30 seconds.
Or a simple little election changes the whole thing, as in the last one.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go home and watch Dr. Strangelove. You ever see that? Is that the movie with Peter Sellers and who's the guy that plays the general? George C. Scott.
Yeah.
Atomic. Is that the one with Slim Pickens riding the atomic bomb
Slim
down?
Pickens.
Slim Pickens on the
He's
atomic
riding it.
bomb. Drop the atomic bomb. He's cowboy riding like
5
he's got his
seconds.
hat off going, whee!
Hey, we're about to start.
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
Open up. Open up. It's the world's policeman. Open up. I need to talk to you right now. Open up or I'll have to blow the door down. Yeah, I'd make a good nose around. All right, Guillermo, I promised you. Come forth. Come forth.
Listen,
Spout the wisdom.
You know, listen, we could be the world's policeman without having to break down doors. We can make sure that law and order is being had around the world according to our standards just by making sure everybody plays right and everybody understands that if they don't, we will show up at the door, which is what I believe Trump did. You know, you don't have to literally be telling Putin, you know, hey, you better. Well, he kind of did. He told him instead of having
Baghdadi might say he broke down a door.
Yeah, just a
Perhaps.
bit. But it was, you know, it was quick, it was focused, it was laser sharp. But you mentioned the people
merciful.
I'm not sure it was merciful, but
it was quick. It was short.
I guess in that sense it was merciful. Yeah. But we could be the world's policeman without actually having to be out there monitoring everything. And then listen, just
why do I twitch every time he says that?
And just like
world's policeman.
Hold on, and just like the police don't show up for everything anymore.
Yep.
We don't show up for everything either. We're not perfect. There's no human being, there's no country on this earth that is perfect. And if we'll never be perfect. But the world's always going to be there and problems are always going to exist. So we cannot wait. Do I think we're the closest country to perfection? Hell yeah. I'll sit in this chair and twice on Sunday saying,
yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
And we're a long ways from perfection. But comparatively to the rest of the world, I bet we're losing it fast.
Oh, yeah. And
when we're questioning whether, you know, that you're born by the color of your skin, whether you're going to oppress people or not, come on and have that get into the schools, get into our military. We have our military leaders, Mark Milley, Lloyd Austin, Blinken, teaching that to our soldiers.
Yeah, no, agreed. And the world is watching us, and you're right.
White rage.
Yeah.
He says, I want to know what. Remember Milley saying that?
Oh, yeah.
He sat up there going, well, I want to know what white rage is. He's reading all these books, you know, and I want white rage. I was like, come on the show. I'll show you what white rage is. How in the world can you know, that we've, I think the people really that were on the fence about the magnitude of these social changes, that they didn't kind of buy. They thought it was hyperbole. Oh, that's not really happening. Oh, it's not in our schools to any great extent. Our military, no, these dudes, they're not. And they see this, and the big OMG comes out. And they go, my gosh. And then trying to undo that and start getting back to traditional values. Let me see if I still react to this. Say one more time.
World's police.
No, God, I can't help it.
I'm telling you, we have to be.
What do we have to be?
Yeah.
The world's police.
Hey!
Roosevelt had a good thing to say.
It's uncontrollable. I got the Tourette's.
Speak softly, but carry a big stick.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's kind of what we have done for 100 years. You know, pretty close.
Yeah.
Is we're calling you on it if you're heading in the wrong direction, and a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are suffering. They're losing their freedom. We do call them on it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean a war every time, but it certainly does mean standing up and call them on it.
But Larry isn't. Take all politics out, folks. I'm looking right in the camera, folks. You're on the radio. Let's just be honest. Hasn't that ideology, whatever you want to call it, that mindset, that guiding principle, speaks off, but carry a big stick. Look for peace first. Try to work things out. But if you know what's right, go ahead and do it. Having the stick. Hasn't it been replaced by talk big but carry a toothpick?
Yeah. Or barely talk, or be not even coherent and
it's like Biden and Blinken and these guys are like Mo, the Three Stooges. I'm gonna. Well, watch out. But and the most they ever get is a slap.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna do. You gotta do what? I oughta. You oughta what? You listen to them. Well, and then that same tone of voice. If China decides to intervene, they have been made fully aware there will be consequences, very severe consequences. They have been made aware of this, especially in our meeting in Alaska when they spent the first half hour lambasting us, and I had my tail between my legs. But once I extracted my tail between my legs, I told them they had something else coming. And they wouldn't like it.
Did you see the?
I mean, that's they say these things.
And don't forget, all options are on the table, and every tool is still in the toolbox.
The Russian legislature.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh God, you hear that? Go ahead.
The Russian legislature wants Alaska back. How do you like that? Did you see that article?
Here's what. You guys say no nuclear weapons are going to be used. Let me tell you something. We thought, hey, he'd never invade.
This is true.
Ukraine. Last night, you heard two very high-ranking spokespeople for Putin. The first guy, Dmitry Peskov, the official spokesman, with this interview with CNN's Ramanpour.
Yeah, Amanpour.
Yes. It was so significant that Fox News covered that interview, and not in a silly way, not to make fun of CNN. They do that. They'll show an interview to make it. This was for real. They used the footage because they thought it was important what he said. And she asked him flat out, will Vladimir Putin consider using nuclear weapons? And he said something right on what you were talking about, Larry. He says in the laws, I guess there's global laws of the use of nuclear weapons that are out there, the United Nations have adhered to. And the only caveat for the use of nuclear weapons is if you face an existential threat to you as a country. Peskov then proceeded to run down the history of what NATO has done and the United States to destroy Russia economically, militarily, methodically, step by step, and says we have been warning the West for 2 decades about this. And we'll talk to the point. Now, I'm not saying I've subscribed to this. I'm just giving you his mindset.
I think he's got a good point.
So if you feel that your existential existence, then you reserve the right to use the nuclear weapons. That's an unsettling thing. Then you think, okay, somebody's going to come from the Russian side. And Dmitry Medvedev, who was the president there, after Putin became prime minister, Medvedev said basically the same thing. They said, look, we don't want to use this, but everything's on the table. They're basically saying, look, we're going to win this war. We see all the stuff coming out. By the way, we just had a rally and a survey. 55% of the Russian people support us. You know, you have a rally and 200,000 people show up.
Yeah.
And then you have our media trying to say all those were government employees.
Yeah.
No, they weren't. Were they intimidated to go? Probably some.
Oh, some were prisoners.
No, but the point is there's a lot, like you said, Larry, they come from a different mindset.
They do.
Here's a country that's been invaded twice. In 1812 by Napoleon. You know who Napoleon brought in? 20 other countries from Western Europe, including Italy, France. You go there, all were the NATO countries invaded Russia. Russia beat them back. Then in World War II, Germany invaded. And when we look at our losses, I've said on this show before, you got to understand where these folks are coming from. Germany lost 1.5 million soldiers and civilians dead during World War II. We were 600-something thousand in terms of civilians and troops. We lost most of the troops. Russia lost 27 million people because of this invasion. We've never been invaded. We don't know how that feels. We don't know how it feels to have that come in and have stories passed on generation to generation about the atrocities of being invaded, what the invading army did to us. You go to the closest thing you can get to that is go to the South and listen to the atrocities General Sherman, when he marched through Atlanta, the killings, the hangings, the rapes, the burning, the devastation, basically took what he had at his disposal in terms of weapons and leveled a big part of the South. Did exactly what the Russian, and you wonder why the damn Yankees. They hate the Yankees. That was passed on of what Sherman did.
Yeah.
So that's our closest thing to that. But and again, here we go. I don't even know if we're still on the air. They're going to post it. This is not to support that I support Putin.
Yep.
It's just I am committed to doing everything we can. I would urge our leaders, dag nabbit, for goodness sake, my God, please focus on a diplomatic solution to this as much as you're harping about unleashing as much military strength as you can. Because I tell you, it is not just, I do believe he will use nukes. If you, and that doesn't mean I'm intimidated. It's just being smart. You just don't want to go there. And I don't think we're putting our best foot forward as America, being the policeman. You want to be the policeman? What's the first thing a good policeman does when he goes to a domestic dispute?
You talk to both sides.
It's right. You try to de-escalate.
Yeah, de-escalate.
Yep.
And what's the most dangerous situation a cop can go into? They'll tell you the cop. Domestic disputes. Between families. That's what you got. Ukraine, Russia. You got a big old...
You do, yeah. Amen. That's very true.
You got a big old family dispute, Guillermo. So I want to buy into your world's policeman. I always can't help it. I get that reaction. Act as that. But act like a real policeman would act.
And I would also add this, and be fair. Because we can't treat this country over here a certain way, but not this one over here. We can't say, we're not going to buy your oil because you're being bad, but we're going to buy it over here in Venezuela. You can't do that either. You can't. The good ones,
they're not on the take.
They're not on the take, and they're not going to racially profile.
Right.
So no, we need to be fair.
Absolutely.
And I agree. But at the end of the day, we've still got to be.
So could this situation be an opportunity for America to reclaim its place as a more trusted world policeman, Larry? I think through every challenge, as you always told me, there's always opportunity. God will give you an opportunity for something good to come out of something that looks so horrible.
I think there is always an opportunity. I think the thing that complicates this, and I hate to keep harping back on it, but is the religious connections.
No, I think you're right.
That people, that we have ignored, and when you look at the Ukraine wanting to have authority over their own religion, so to speak, and not under Moscow's rule, where Kirill is a puppet of Putin. So you've got all of that interaction taking place. I just think it complicates it for us because we only look at it as good and evil when you have good, evil. You have both, things, because the Russian people overwhelmingly don't support the war. When you look at every survey that's been done, the people do not support the war.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because and again, I'm not making a case against Zelensky. I just things that don't add up in my mind. You brought it up on the show yesterday. Zelensky has shut down 11 media outlets. I asked myself, why? If you're trying to you have all this support for what you're doing, you would want as many outlets as you have available.
I think it's 3 outlets and 11 political parties.
Okay, 11 political parties, but you have 3
and
media.
3 media outlets. So now,
Well, what are those 3 media outlets anti-Zelensky? Are they spouting? I mean, certainly the Russians aren't controlling those media outlets.
I'm not sure.
I mean, these are just things I asked myself, not that to support Putin. It would just say, I would be grown up about this. I would say, look, Ukraine, Zelensky, we're supporting you. But we expect you to come out of this changed.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want you on the list.
That's such a good point.
We don't want you to be.
Such a good point.
We're not going to support somebody that's the third most corrupt country in the world.
Yep.
So here's our equipment. But you got to pledge right now.
That's right.
Don't leave a bunch of egg on our face. We bring you out of this, and the next thing we know, you're jailing opponents just like Putin.
I hope Biden tells Zelensky, and you better make sure that check to Hunter has tons of zeros on it. What?
Because I'm going to be out of the job.
That's what we're saying, right? Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you another question.
Let me talk about the passage of time. You seen Kamala's latest?
Yeah.
I want to talk about the passage of time.
The Open Society Foundation. Are you familiar with that?
Open Society?
Yeah.
I've heard of it. But
same here.
Yeah. Soros.
Oh, yeah.
That Soros' group has put $25 billion into the Ukraine. Okay. So he got Zelensky elected. So when you understand that, it gives you also a different perspective.
Kidding me?
No. And
see, that would be the first thing I would say. You take no more Soros, which comes back. which 50% is the policeman in the United States. Right now, the president's representing 50% of values we don't subscribe to.
43%.
43%.
We're talking about his current poll numbers? Oh, okay.
No, but when he was like a 50-50 country and these sort of things, that would be to bring sainthood on anyone because of a certain situation is not good.
No.
You back yourself into a corner, and
we're all flawed.
Yeah.
But during flawed times is when you get the best deal you can get. So if you're going to help Zelensky, as you were saying, you got to get the best deal that he's going to do the right thing after it's over.
Yeah.
If you go in and help.
Give me a new idea for a series. We'll bring Bubba back, but as the world's policeman.
Hey.
He steps out of Sparta.
Oh,
you like that? Becomes the world's policeman. Where would the headquarters be? You'd have to have several.
You would.
Yeah, really.
You definitely would.
It'd be
Fireball.
simple. It'd just be, hey, y'all stop bickering. Just knock this off. Don't make me come over there.
I'll get right on that.
Don't make me come over there to Europe now. You made me come over there. You're not going to like it.
I'll get right on that.
Well, listen, folks. Tomorrow we're going to get into this World War III because I believe with all my heart, sadly, that World War III has already begun. It'll be unlike any that we fought in the past. I think it's going to be probably a 10, 15, 2-decade war. It started now with the cyber war. It's starting with the economic war. I don't think we'll ever return to normal. The alliances are starting to build. And World War III has, on that cheery note, we're going to have Dale and Roy sing us out. Larry, thanks for joining us. Guillermo, thank you, man.
Always a pleasure.
This time just flies.
Nice being here.
God bless y'all, and remember, God's in charge. Not all this craziness. He knows what's good for us, and he'll see us through it all. God bless you. God bless America, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye now.